Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words to talk about some Legacy. We've got a banned and restricted list update coming soon, and I, like many others, think Legacy is in dire need of help. We all want Wizards to be brave and do something big. All too often they've not done enough, or sometimes nothing at all, and left players disenfranchised. Eternal Weekend North America had roughly 25% fewer players this year compared to last year. As you've probably guessed from the thumbnail of this video, I think one of the key solutions to fixing Legacy involves banning Entomb. If you don't believe me, look at this graph showing cumulative top 8 placings of the top 10 decks since the last BNR. Look at it. Blue-Black Reanimator can't keep getting away with this. Let's take a closer look at some more data. This is the data for the last 17 weeks since the last BNR. As we can see, Blue-Black Reanimator has an overall meta share of 17.8% over this period. But it made up 26.4% of all top 8 placings in challenge level online events. What's more, it also won 26.3% of those events. That is not okay. No other deck can boast those sorts of numbers, especially given the large amount of data in the sample size for Blue-Black Reanimator. It should also be noted that this year at Eternal Weekend North America, Blue-Black Reanimator had a better win rate than last year and put more copies into the top 8. And last year, it had Psychic Frog. The main thrust of my solution is to ban Entomb. Firstly, it's a 1-mana instant speed tutor that not only finds the card you're looking for, but puts it into the correct zone to enable a combo. There's no other tutor at that rate in the format, and you could argue it's even stronger in usage than some tutors on the ban list. What this means in practice is that Blue-Black Reanimator gets to splash an entire deck archetype off of just 11 cards. In a Brainstorm Fetchland tempo deck is what it's putting it into. Cheating Atraxa into play shouldn't be a light splash in another deck. It's too powerful. It should be a thing that your deck is built entirely to do. It most certainly shouldn't be splashing to the traditionally most powerful Shen and Legacy, which is the Tempo deck. The issue isn't that Tempo is too good, or that reanimating Atraxa is too good. It's that doing both in the same deck is too much power, and that card that enables it is Entomb. Now you, and Wizards of the Coast it seems, believe that banning Entomb would entirely kill off Reanimator decks as an archetype altogether. I strongly disagree. Before Blue-Black Reanimator became the dominant deck in Legacy, Turbo Rakdos Reanimator was roughly 10% of the meta, and sometimes even the most played deck in the format. Now it's less than 1.5% of the meta. Banning Entomb will impact Classic Reanimator. However, right now, it's the existence of Entomb that is hurting the deck. Entomb being legal makes Turbo Reanimator somewhat pointless, as you can play a similar game plan on only 11 slots in your deck, leaving you to play all the best tempo cards in the format alongside it. Sure, there are a handful of dedicated experts getting results, but Classic Reanimator is now sort of a fringe deck. What's more is that I know for a fact that Turbo Reanimator expert Rudeslay has a list ready to go if Entomb gets banned. In fact, here it is. He may not want Entomb banned, but he's already got a plan. Losing Entomb won't stop reanimation strategies, and I need the BNR panel to understand that, because their previous article suggests otherwise. I 100% guarantee you that Rudeslay, Magic Dads and Shadowgrave will still be top 8ing Legacy challenges with Reanimator lists, even if Entomb is banned. Whenever I bring up that I want Entomb to go, people often suggest banning other cards from Blue-Black Reanimator, trying to find the point in time when a new card came along to make the deck work, and call that the culprit instead of Entomb. The thing is, sometimes in Magic, people build a deck from stuff that was there all along, and suddenly it takes off and now it's a thing. We all kick ourselves that we missed it, but once the genie is out of the bottle, it's here to stay. That's exactly how Blue-Black Reanimator is. People didn't fully realise how easily it could fold it into a tempo deck, right? Now we know. It's not the new card's fault, it's people realising how busted Entomb is in the shell and allowing you to save space. Nevertheless, I'm going to do my best at explaining why banning other cards out of the Blue-Black Reanimator deck doesn't work. Spoiler alert though, there is another card in Blue-Black Reanimator that I think should also be banned, but we'll get to that later. Banning the big monsters is not the answer. Look at poor Sneak and Show. The deck is doing horribly right now. Taking away their Atraxa might well kill the deck entirely. And how many monsters do you ban? There's a really big list of monsters worth cheating into play with a tempo shell. How many decks and cards have to suffer for Entomb sins? Show and tell decks also show us how a deck should be built if it's trying to cheat Atraxa level threats into play. You should have to dedicate your deck to doing that because of how good the payoff is. They have to run a minimum of, 16 cards plus a bunch of deep digging spells like Stock Up and Cantrips. Not only that, they have to run 5 sort of Lotus effects, including Spirit Guides to power it out, alongside playing a fragile 2-color mana base with Ancient Tombs and City of Traitors. Maybe, some special ways of protecting it like Flusterstorm as well. You could argue that the package in Sneak and Show to cheat creatures into play is about 27 odd cards. That's a huge commitment compared to Blue-Black Reanimator. So what about banning Reanimate? It's the only 1-mana reanimation spell. But Blue-Black Reanimator can easily pivot to running 2-mana reanimation spells, because the deck isn't about doing the thing as fast as possible. Blue-Black Reanimator is about doing the thing at some point off of low commitment in deck building and making it stick using the Blue-Black tempo tools and sort of taxing your opponent's resources because your deck does too many things. Losing Reanimate doesn't really impact the game plan. Now, sure, it can impact the best hand of Thoughtseize into Entomb Reanimate, but a lot of the time, it doesn't have that dream hand. And with Entomb and Animate Dead, it can still combo off on turn 2 with protection in the form of Daze or Force of Will. Losing Reanimate also shuts off one of the counterplays to the deck in reducing their life total quick enough so that they can not be able to reanimate any threats. Sure, 2 mana is a downgrade, but the fact that sometimes it isn't a downgrade really speaks to how banning Reanimate isn't the solution here. I also think banning Reanimate hurts a Turbo Reanimator deck far more than the Blue-Black Reanimator build, because Turbo Reanimator needs to do its thing quickly as it's the only plan, and the efficiency of that matters a great deal. Single pieces of permission can collapse their entire plan, so every turn that goes by, the opponent sculpts and closes the door for Turbo Reanimator players. The Turbo decks often go off on turn 1 without Entomb, because they have Unmask, Cabal Therapy, and Thoughtseize, which they can use as enablers to give them a creature to reanimate. Often with mana to spare thanks to Dark Ritual and Lotus Petal, losing their only 1-mana reanimation spell is kind of a bigger deal than losing one of their many 1-mana or less enablers, which is what Entomb is. The other big question is, what about Tamiyo? And my answer to that is yes. Tamiyo should be banned. It is a miserable play pattern and dominates the game as early as turn 1. It's just like Ren and 6, Dreadhorde Arcanist, and Ragavan, in that it simply can't exist within the Legacy card pool without causing problems. Legacy is very much about this card right now. 1-mana Planeswalkers are a bit too good, it turns out. Who knew? So if Tamiyo is so good, isn't this the key card in Blue-Black Reanimator that we can ban to bring the deck back in line? In my opinion, no. There are a bunch of Tamiyo decks in the format, but none of them have the absurd numbers of Blue-Black Reanimator. Blue-Black Tempo is a big Tamiyo deck. It even uses it to ninjutsu and a Kaito and has some nice synergy with it there. That deck has an overrep rate of 1.04, which means it's putting as many copies into the top 8 as is its percentage of the meta. Technically, that means it's balanced. Blue-Black Reanimator, on the other hand, has an overrep rate of 1.49, meaning it's putting close to 50% more top 8s than its meta representation. To me, that suggests that Blue-Black Reanimator isn't the best deck off the back of Tamiyo specifically. Now, you can certainly argue that Blue-Black Reanimator leans on Tamiyo more, as its tempo plan is less fleshed out than Blue-Black Tempo. There's probably some truth to that. However, I would still argue that Tamiyo isn't the reason Blue-Black Reanimator is so dominant. I think it's the fact that it gets to splash an entire deck into itself with just 11 cards. We've all been there with our Nile Spellbomb or Soulguide Lantern looking at our Reanimator opponent's thick graveyard and wondering if we need to just hit it and stop the Murktide coming down, or should we hold it up to stop the Entomb? You have a decision point that makes or break the game, and you basically have to guess what the correct play is. These play patterns will still exist even without Tamiyo. I'm sure Blue-Black Reanimator would take time to find the new optimal build if we were to ban Tamiyo, just like when Troll got banned as well. But I fully believe that they would find it at some point and it would be one of the best decks. I've said it before, as long as Entomb is illegal, Blue-Black Reanimator will be a top level deck, if not the best deck in the format. It's just too powerful and efficient. Another proposition I hear is, we should unban Deathrite Shaman to fix Legacy. Please, no. You don't try to fix broken cards by adding in more broken cards. Deathrite Shaman was toxic before it was banned, and it was banned for a very good reason. So many decks could run it, it broke the colour pie, it made games revolve around it in an annoying fashion. They didn't ban the card by accident. We can just ban the problem cards now. We don't need to try and juggle all the mistakes together at once to try and fix each other. If you want to unban something, we can do that though. If we ban Entomb, we can unban Troll of Khazad-dûm, since it only went to pay for Entomb's sins. This would lead to the format still having a tempo reanimator strategy if that's the thing people want. But instead of it reanimating the super powerful creatures that entire decks are built around to cheat out, it can just grab like Troll, Street Wraith, Striped Riverwinder, that sort of thing. That deck might well be pretty darn good. Banning Entomb allows us to split the fair and the unfair Reanimator decks. If you want to cheat your Atraxa in, I think your whole deck should have to be dedicated to doing that. If you want some undercosted creatures in a tempo shell via reanimation, you can have them when your trolls and your river winders or whatever. You can't mix and match both. That is where the fundamental problem is that is causing the rot in Legacy, in my opinion. I reckon I've given a pretty solid account of why banning Entomb makes sense, and that I also want Tamiyo banned and Troll unbanned. That is very much the thrust of this video, but I would also like to see the One Ring and Nadu Winged Wisdom banned. I don't think these are controversial takes. They are both design mistakes. They both contribute to Control being virtually unplayable right now, and they both lead to pretty miserable play experiences. We want a curated format that feels good to play. These cards going would fix that. Next, I think we should mention second order consequences. When Troll was banned, Oops All Spells became the best deck in the format for a while until the new Blue-Black Reanimator build got solved. If Entomb goes, it might be worth thinking about banning Balustrade Spy and Undercity Informer. Yes, that would kill the deck. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Hermit Druid is banned in Legacy because it's a 1-card combo. That card costs 2, it's in green, and needs to survive an entire turn cycle to activate. The Oops creatures do cost a little bit more, but they are in the Dark Ritual and Thoughtseize colour, and most importantly, they activate immediately. The deck building restrictions for Oops are pretty much non-existent lands-wise. The double-face lands, clearly a design mistake, especially when they printed more in Modern Horizons 3 for some reason. They could be banned instead, I suppose, but that looks embarrassing to me. Just ban the broken Hermit Druid cards and move on. Some other less important thoughts on the BNR. I think we can let Frantic Search come off the ban list. It's a combo card that encourages combo decks to play at least 3 turns of Magic and make those land drops. That's honestly fine in the current world of Legacy and would help out high tide decks which are very poor right now. There is one other card that I would personally like to see banned. I think the format would be more enjoyable and all round better without it, although I do not believe it needs to be banned. That card is Barrogoyf. It's just a bit too efficient and blanks entire decks a little too easily, and people are just boarding it in as a backup plan, just one card and it's good enough. But like I said, I don't think it needs to be banned. I just feel it would make the format better if it didn't exist. So there we have it. I think Entomb and Tamiyo need to go. That's priority 1. The One Ring and Nadu should go 2. Most of us suspect that they will be banned at some point. Just rip off the band-aid and do it now. Balustrade Spy and Undercity Informer are next on the list, but if they want to wait for them to become a problem in terms of like the data and stuff, then sure, I guess, but I don't really see why you need to wait on that one. Lastly, give us back Troll of Khazad-dûm and throw high tide players a bone with Frantic Search. And that, lovely people, is my take on fixing Legacy at this BNR. Honestly though, Wizards haven't given me much faith with their handling of the BNR over the last year or two, so I'm expecting just Tamiyo and maybe the One Ring if we get lucky. So, what do you think they're going to do? Please let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and goodbye.